Hello everybody and welcome back to the A-Side. I am your host, Riley, and I, embarrassingly enough, forgot to write an intro for this video. But it's album recap, February 2023. Yeah, I'm keeping this series alive. I listened to quite a few albums, this month. I got quite a few to review. Actually, I did some videos, the last of which I just recorded and put out right before this. So now that I'm done talking about all the albums I wanted to give full reviews to this month, or reactions, which I don't think I did any, I'm going to do the album recap and talk about all the other stuff I listened to. So yeah, before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you want. Anyway, we'll start with Skrillex. I was interested going into this album. Skrillex was the face of dubstep, but dubstep has remained a pretty dormant genre, being left in the culture of 2012. So that left me wondering what a Skrillex album in 2023 would sound like. Apparently, Skrillex was looking for the same answer, as Don't Get Too Close is a pretty bland album. It lacks personality or anything to really set it apart much. It's not bad, it's just really not for me. A mid-tier dance album doesn't interest me very much. However, the novelty of there being two Skrillex songs with Blade on them, one of which also features Young Lean, is not lost on me. It is hilarious. The latter of which, Real Spring, is actually the best song on the album. Not only do I love Blade, but the production is very hyperpop-esque. There's also some neat vocals that remind me of a brief inquiry era of the 1975. The song with Kid Cudi is okay. Justin Bieber pops up later on this record to make for, dare I say it, a nice treat. Bad for me, however, is cheesy in many ways, from the xylophone synths to the gun rack sounds to the cliched "you're so bad for me" lyrics. 3 AM has vocals manipulated to sound like a child, in the wise words of the angry video game nerd. What were they thinking? Overall, this record is pretty cookie-cutter and basic. Skrillex is a name that carries some weight, at least for me. I mean, the man spearheaded an entire genre. I don't even really like dubstep, but this record feels like it could have been made by any dime a dozen producer. 3+ out of 10. And if we're going to talk about one Skrillex album, we might as well talk about the other one. This one is called Quest for Fire. I actually think Quest for Fire is significantly better than Don't Get Too Close. For starters, there's way more personality here. This is far more than a standard pop EDM album. The production here is far less bland. It's hard and heavy. It almost feels like a modern take on Skrillex and his sound. You know, dubstep updated for the 2020s. Opening track, Leave Me Like This, has a dancey, house-esque beat, but throws in the distorted bass and loud electronics of dubstep on top of it. To make something that's undeniably loud, but also extremely danceable. There are even some callbacks to older hits here. Tears has a sample from Navi, from Ocarina of Time, which is cool. The song itself draws an influence from drill. I feel like drill is to trap today what dubstep was to EDM in the early 2010s. You know, a genre that's very widely appealing and very widely popular, but then a sound and a subset of that genre that pushes it to its angrier, louder, more aggressive extreme. So it's only fitting that Skrillex give that sound a shot. The wub 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 electronics are very prevalent on Inhale, Exhale, but the beat drop is very anticlimactic. The chopped out vocals on A Street I Knew are disorienting and annoying. The title Warped Tour 2005 with Pete Wentz made me laugh out loud. It's just an interlude, but I can't help but wonder, does Skrillex know about Pete Key? And if you don't know about Pete Key, what was it like to be normal in high school? I'd love to know. Supersonic, My Existence, has Dylan Brady of 100 Gex on it. That pairing is not nearly as crazy as I expected it to be, and I was very disappointed by that track. As a fan, this album really isn't something I'd listen to in my free time. In fact, I think this is the first time I've ever talked about any form of EDM on the A-side. However, as a critic, I can tell that this was well made, and of a high quality. My brother would absolutely love this. Maybe the bar was low after Don't Get Too Close, but I liked Quest for Fire. 6 out of 10. P.S. Skrillex will never make anything harder than Purple Lamborghini. Song's phenomenal. Next, we have 6 Feet by Real Friends. Have you ever heard a Real Friends song? Then congratulations, you've heard 6 Feet. I mean, come on. What do you want me to say? It's a 3-track pop-punk EP. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel. It just sounds like Real Friends, and that's not a bad thing. I love pop punk, and I really like Real Friends. Their heavily emo-tinged take on pop punk has always appealed to me. Put Yourself Back Together is a classic in modern pop punk. It's just the three songs, real frenzy beats, and it isn't gonna rise above anything else that comes out this year. Definitely good though. I like the title track particularly. 6 out of 10. In a similar vein, we have Fantasy Chapter 1 by M83. Of course, M83 is responsible for one of the greatest songs of all time, Midnight City. Like 6 Feet, Fantasy Chapter 1 is a short EP that doesn't reinvent the wheel. If you've heard an M83 song, you've heard Fantasy Chapter 1. Once again, though, it's a really great sound. The dreamy synth pop is great. It's somewhere in between Heaven and Las Vegas and The Bones of What You Believe. The music and reverb vocals make me feel like I'm looking at the stars. It's a good listen, but you're not missing out on anything crazy if you skip it. Kind of like a less ambitious Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. Once again, 6 out of 10. Next, we have the solo album from Radiohead drummer Philip Selway, Strange Dance. As a huge Radiohead fan, I had to check this out, and I really enjoyed it. Phil isn't always the most captivating vocalist, but he does a pretty alright job regardless. The album has a lot of great orchestration work. It'll often swell through grandiose climax. It's so colorful and beautiful. It's really cool how the record can go from black and white to Technicolor so quickly, a la Wizard of Oz. I think What Keeps You Awake is the best song on the record, and one of my favorites of the year. Phil's vocals here are actually incredible. Their whispery sound makes them feel so haunting, and it's backed by some beautiful xylophones and mysterious sounding guitars. Of course, the string work here is incredible. When this song hits its colorful swell in the second half, it's absolutely blissful. It's a whole other world of sound and beauty that can be so overwhelming. The strings, and specifically violins, especially blow my mind. There are some Bowie Black Star-esque saxophone parts buried deep in the mix, too, that I really like. Many other songs on Strange Dance do a similar thing with the colorful swell of beautiful strings and orchestration. It's all very pretty, but never really matches the overwhelming awe of What Keeps You Awake. Phil's vocals don't hit the same stride throughout the rest of the record either. Still very serviceable, though. If you're looking for something more akin to Radiohead, try picking up Pieces. It's got some ad-strap rhythms from the guitars that remind me a lot of Amnesiac. It's got the most rockish bass line on the record, and the way the strings crescendo, decrescendo, and out remind me of parts of a moon-shaped pool. I don't want to be too harsh because I do enjoy this album. It's well made and it sounds nice, but Phil found a structure and most of these songs follow it. It can feel a little formulaic, and that's something I really can't ignore. It doesn't help that he nails it so hard in the second track that the rest of the record kind of pales in comparison with him doing the same thing over and over again, and it never gets the same heights that second song does. The one song I feel breaks out of the formula, besides picking up the pieces, is Make It Go Away. The warm acoustic guitars breathe life into a track list that starts to grow stagnant. 6+ out of 10. Next up, we have Jaws of Life by Pierce the Veil, the legendary band's first new album in like 7 years. I seem like the kind of person, like from the outside, who would really love Pierce the Veil, right? Bands like MCR, Fall Out Boy, Bring Me the Horizon, bands I talk about a lot and adore. This is my first time hearing an album of theirs. I really enjoyed myself here, especially when the band taps into a sound more reminiscent of like the latter two MCR albums. These songs take on a more theatrical tone. This starts near the middle of the album with the brilliant song Flawless Execution, and this is where the album really starts to hit its stride. The title track follows suit with its operatic guitar riffs. It's really cool when the guitar riff comes back like smaller and cleaner, accompanied by some glockenspiel. Damn the Man, Save the Emperor has this declaratory chorus with a really awesome descending guitar lick. Almost sounds like a song coming from the perspective of a sympathetic villain in a show. This run of theatrical emo metal is the highlight of the album, no doubt. There are other songs I feel worth mentioning. I'm really loving the vocal melody as an opening song, Death of an Executioner. There's a distinctly nu metal beat throughout the song Pass Me the Nirvana. The guitar riffs really aren't unlike Korn. I don't know exactly how to feel about it, though, because the guitar riff, it does go, you know? You can bang your head to it. But the yelly parts of the pre-chorus are a big turn-off for me, especially with a super tinny effect. Even When I'm Not With You is great, the sad cascading guitars are beautiful, and the claps of the percussion are weirdly heady and pretty. It really cools things down to a slow, longing sound, but it's really pretty. Emergency Contact is another really pretty romantic song, but I Want You to Be My Emergency Contact is a really dumb lyric. Resilience has this 2010s indie folk thing going on that I can't say works particularly well. Overall, though, I found myself really liking this album. 7 out of 10. Next, we have the EP by Charmer, Senny Stretcher. Charmer is an emo band with about 70,000 monthly listeners. Their 2019-2020 album, I can't exactly remember, Ivy, is a pretty chill Midwest emo album that I personally adore. But Senny Stretcher almost reminds me of Peripheral Vision by Turnover. This EP sets emo aside and completely embraces a dream pop sound. Tulip Sniper has some gorgeous slide guitars that bring me into the past with some soft, sad vocals that touch my heart. The warm acoustic guitars adds nostalgia. The line, "It feels like deja vu every time I think of you," is a poignant and heartbreaking lyric. The song feels like the regrets and the sadness of the past hitting you head on. Slow Death turns up the fuzz, making things even dreamier. It starts to edge out the vocals, giving a shoegaze flavor, and the trumpets are a really cool touch. Once again, lyrically, it's a sad nostalgia. It's about longing for the past with someone, you can never be with again. Devil's Night is a song that feels just lost. Not in a bad way. The feeling of being emotionally lost, disappearing into the sadness and not knowing what to do. When the two different vocal parts layer on top of each other, it's gutting. Especially at the end where they just wail on their instruments. And then the final song, Just Like Jezebel, is much more in line with the Midwest emo songs of their earlier projects. It's got those twinkly guitars that are synonymous with Midwest emo right at the end. This is just a 4-song, 12-minute EP, but it really hit me. I had to immediately re-listen to it after first listen. This one might be the one to beat this year. 10 out of 10. And finally, the big one. We have Afterlife by Yeat. A lot of people were talking about this album. Many people praising it very highly. People saying it was better than Whole Lotta Red. Yeat is better than Cardi. And I've once again come to the conclusion that Hyperpop Daily is full of shit. Afterlife is bad. Yet another Rage album that shows how quickly the sound has fallen from grace. Yeat has no charisma. He's not likable in the slightest. Most of the time, he's just ripping off other better rappers. Mostly Cardi. Take No More Talk, for example. No More Talk is impressive because he manages to rip off 3 rappers totally and completely in one song. His flow and delivery is just a poor Young Thug impression, which actually pops up again on the album. He rips off some Cardi ad-libs when he hits the wah! And rips off Trippy with that that Trippy does. You know what I'm talking about. I can't impersonate it. It's impressive that there was not an original bone in this song's body. He mostly rips off Cardi on this record, though, like I said. If this album did anything, it just proved to me that Yeat has done nothing but ride the coattails of a Whole Lotta Red. I don't even know what the point of Yeat being over these beats is. The lyricism, if you can even call it that, is absolute nonsense. There's nothing interesting about baseless flexing and vague violent lyrics toward nobody. Not to mention the repetition. I want Bentley, I want money, I want Bentley, I want money, I want Bentley, I want money. Sounds like a spoiled brat whining in Walmart when his mommy won't buy him an Optimus Prime toy. Part of what makes Rage so interesting is the aggression and the angry energy that's bursting through the seams, so the monotone delivery of Schmunk falls flat entirely. It's got an alright beat, though. The beat on Rave Party, however, is horrible. It sounds like it's coming from a Game Boy somebody dropped in water. Where the beats aren't garbage, they're unmemorable. Take a record like Whole Lotta Red or Trip at Night, for example. I am never going to forget beats like Rockstar Made, Miss the Rage, or On That Time. These flat, thrown-together beats are forgotten the second the track ends. Whoa, Non-ID, 7 Nights, Better Off. How It Goes an alright song, though. I really like the tone of the synths. They feel somewhere between Pierre Bourne and a Rage beat. Easily the best song on the record. Now is just boring. Slam is ridiculous and childish. The bells in this track are trying to force an epic feel that comes off as very corny. I love the super quirky spelling of all these songs. Yeat is trying so hard to convince us that he's special, but in reality he's just a hack. Removing some vowels and adding some consonants and misspelling a few words does not hide anything. Like every other hip-hop album, Afterlife insists upon itself and is 22 tracks and over an hour long. There's no reason it needs to be this long. Like I said, Yeat has nothing to say. A baby can string along sentences that are more comprehensive than anything on this record. The beats remain flat the whole time, so it's not like there are any crazy musical ideas he has either. I feel that trend chasing and greed has taken the artistry out of hip-hop. Every day it becomes more and more repetitive, more unoriginal, and more soulless. Yeat is the poster child for this. Afterlife by Yeat is a waste of your time. 2- out of 10. And that's it for this month. That was album recap of February. What did you think of these albums? What was your favorite? What was your least favorite? What are some other great or horrible albums you heard this month? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll check them out. at least before year-end list season. I don't know the list of all the records I hear. Maybe they'll find a hidden gem. Anyway, I guess I didn't write an outro. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all at the beginning of April for the third installment of Album Recap.